Hello, hey, Mitchell here. Today we're going to talk about how to calm your nervous system, how to stay calm, how to be present in the moment without being ruffled by the events of the moment. Let's begin. And if any of this resonates with you, please like, subscribe, comment, and I can get back to you on all of these questions that you may have. July is heating up to be, and no pun intended, but quite a revolutionary month. Things are happening in the world that are reflecting kind of a soul restlessness that I think all of humanity has been carrying for some time. And it's time to offload that burden, or at the very least, to take a break and unpack that burden and see which things can be jettisoned. And some of those things may just need repackaging or revisiting. But I think a lot of stuff can be let go. And I believe also it's a time to learn to trust. And this is huge because the only way to really learn how to trust is to expand beyond yourself. Now, Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about the voice within the head, and that's what we oftentimes attribute as the I, is this voice that is continually chatting inside the head. And it's, if I were to characterize it, it's about continually creating judgments, and it's that ruler by which we measure how we are doing in the world as this human being. And so again, back to Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the difference between I have a life and I am life. Well, I am life, okay? This body, mind, is, you've heard it called a vessel, many different terms. It's the window by which the soul sees what it looks and feels like to have tactile physical experiences. And that's what we're here for, is to embrace this physical experience and not so much to edit or judge it. Because as we become more trusting in our larger beingness, that we are life itself, the less we grip onto what things are. When we loosen our grasp on the physicality of things, then we stop continually projecting what we are going to see in the future or what we expect. So back to just great old-fashioned neuroscience. The thoughts that we think are 90% repetitive. So on average, a human being has around 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And if 90% of those are repetitive, then really what we're doing is we're just continually reinforcing what already is. And if we can step away from that, be in the experience, then we are at that point bringing in new. And as we bring in new, then we can formulate new. Because we are creating our existence continually, always, anyway. And if our thoughts are 90% repetitive, then we're just repeating the past for the most part, 90% of it. When we stop and allow and experience each moment, and this is the Buddhist idea of beginner mind, is every moment is a new moment. What we're doing is we're trusting this experiential self to continually roll out moments for us to take in with the five senses that our highly limited experiential person allows. So we've got the five senses, we've got just a very tactile exterior. And then if we release this continual judgment saying that this one's bad, this one's good, this one's bad, this one's good, then we allow for a broader range. The catch is that we don't necessarily need to obsess over what is bad or good or what is enjoyable, what I prefer and what I don't prefer, because that is almost de facto, just by our very makeup, by the very way that the senses are built. We already know, this is too hot, this is too cold, for this very limited being. I like to go fast. Somebody else says this is too fast for me, because consciousness wants to have all the experiences. And so if we trust that consciousness is here guiding what is happening, then the appropriate experiences will come that fit what your particular body, mind, preferences really are. Fascinating. And, put in the comments if you want to go deeper into that. We can do a deep dive into that at some point, because it's a huge subject. How it's all these books and movies and videos about how to manifest, and it's more a process of stepping away from than it is intentionally focusing down on what I do and don't like, because what happens there is you really get locked into this into being in your senses and being in your thinker, and the idea of having a life rather than being life. When you completely let go of it all and you kind of surf the top of it, that's when the experiences arrive that are peak experiences continually. Again, if you want to do a deep dive into this, we can. It really is kind of the heart and soul of what manifestation is. But the fascinating thing is that once you begin to experience at a beingness level of being life rather than living a life, then your filter clears out, and you're no longer trying to exclude this experience for that experience. And when you trust, then what's also happening is those experiences that are more suitable, that are more appeasing to this form, whatever form you happen to be, will be attracted to you, will be brought to you. So be in your uniqueness, and don't worry about having to manifest, because the manifestation is all you are as a beingness. It is happening. It's not a doing. your doing is almost a lag. It's the interaction with that was manifested by your previous understandings and thoughts and projections. So the idea of surfing is, instead of always thinking that the experience is in the doing, it's in the projection of all that is, and you feel like you're riding on top of something. Experience becomes far more multidimensional. From my personal experience, for example, I like to mountain bike, and when I'm in the space of beingness while I'm mountain biking, there is a multidimensional quality about it. I'm not just on a bike doing this trail, watching out for this and watching out for that. I'm literally feel like I am the dirt on the trail, the wood of the tree, the needles of the pines, the air that is circulating continuously, and also a human being on a physical contraption called a bicycle. But there's so much more. The consciousness that is within the very environment, within the rocks, the trees, the dirt, the bicycle, the human being, all intermingle and create a much, much richer tapestry of experience when you are in it and you're in the beingness rather than just doing. And I notice that when I'm in those spaces, the physicality piece also takes a different sensation. So say there's a headwind, and if I were just in the doing, that headwind would be, oh man, I'm not going as fast as I want to. Oh, this dang headwind, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm in the experiential piece, when I'm in the beingness and there's a headwind, there's a texture and an added dimension of greater air quality that comes in. And then actually even the physical sensation of fatigue, maybe from riding against a wind, is all part of the experience, but there isn't that positive negative quality. It's just, oh wow, the body is exerting more, and the body is also in its own way being refreshed more frequently somehow. It's just an entirely different experience when you are present and being rather than doing. And so I mentioned trust, and it really is. It's about being in this plane of trust. And so back to I mentioned that July heating up, and there could be a lot of crazy things happening, difficulties perhaps that we would interpret as difficulties. But if we're in that beingness space, that those difficulties become the headwind that we experience completely different by not judging it as a bad thing when these things that come up Maybe like I mentioned, the baggage that we're carrying, when we begin to unpack them, rather than putting judgments on, saying, "Oh, this is bad. I don't want to be carrying this." It's, wow, look at what this has done. It's propelled me to a different place of experience, of beingness. And it's helped to clarify the broader experience, as a collective, because individually we are now coming together almost in an unspoken agreement that a lot of the things that have been happening are not what we want to carry forward. And so we can literally leave those here, there, in the past. And it's not like it's a bad thing. It all gets recycled. It all gets used. It's energy. It's consciousness. And it's consciousness that now is awareness that says, oh, this is a thing that we don't want to carry forward. And consciousness takes note of that. We don't have to track every little thing in consciousness. Consciousness does it for us. So our job here is to experience and move to the next one. And as far as judgments go, yes, there can be in the moment that experience of discomfort or dislike. Say, oh, this is not the best experience that I've ever had. And bam, consciousness already registers it. I don't have to do a deep dive into why I don't like it and then whose fault it is that this is occurring. Because that is then creating more of it, because you've put it out there and you've attributed this thing that I don't like to others and other things, and it becomes far deeper ingrained into the thought process, which is the creativity process of what's going to come in the future, what's going to come next in our unfolding, because that's how we are built. This limited self is in a place where it continually unfolds because it is so limited. And so we oftentimes, by creating bigger attachments to things that we dislike, perpetuate those things that we dislike more and more into our future. And by accepting and moving beyond, just like with the headwind, it becomes a fascinating, wonderful point of experience that can be placed here, and consciousness takes note that, oh, that wasn't as pleasant as maybe the tailwind. Now, it's not to say that all of life will become a tailwind, but you will find yourself having far more tailwinds when you bless the headwind than if you curse the headwind. Then guess what? That headwind will come back more and more and more. It's just kind of the way of the universe, and the logic is already been stated in this video. So just rewatch it if you didn't pick all that up. And if you do have questions, of course, put it in the comments. So anyway, as far as what we can do to stay calm, again, You know, how do you go into beingness versus doingness? You know, it's just like, what? How do I do that? Well, I've got in my other videos, check them out, a lot of polyvagal exercises and breathwork exercises that help the body anchor into a place of safety. And we can use those exercises to bring the body into that place of safety so that it does not contribute to the chatter of the mind and the resistance that the mind puts out. My number one go-to is, of course, I talk about it nearly every time, and I'm going to talk about it again, is the basic breath. And it's breathing in and out only through the nose. Why through the nose? Because the nose stimulates diaphragm breathing. When we breathe through the mouth, it stimulates intercostal breathing and in particular upper chest breathing, which is also stimulates sympathetic. It's an upregulating breath, which then goes into fight or flight or that anxious state. When we breathe in and out through the nose, it's a down-regulating exercise, and especially if we exhale longer through the nose. So it's a longer, slower exhale than our inhale. And so I generally do a 2 in, pause, 4 out, pause, 2 in, pause, 4 out, pause. And that right there helps to just down-regulate the body. Another thing that can happen when you're doing this breath is that you get a sense of oxygen hunger. And I want you to have that. Maybe a 10 to 20% less oxygen than you're used to, because we want to recalibrate the brain to accept more carbon dioxide, which helps to oxygenate the system, oxygenate the organs. And guess what? The first organ to be oxygenated, priority number 1, is the brain, and it helps to move you out of amygdala, which is your emergency brain, into the hippocampus, which is the place where you get the calming and the safety chemicals. Your dopamine, your dopamine is down here in the amygdala. The amygdala does kind of have that that addictive sense, and that's what the dopamine is. And we really don't want that. We want the serotonins and the melatonins and the endorphins that are released from being in the hippocampus. And so just doing this down-regulating breath brings us more into the hippocampus. Why? Because we are oxygenating more. When we oxygenate more, we nourish the system. The system itself feels safe. We bring our energy, our awareness back from the extremities into the core, and our autonomic system that is in the core then takes care of cleansing the toxins, cleansing the anxious chemicals that have been in the body. And we have a long history. Most industrial society people have a heightened sympathetic sense, which is that fight or flight, that anxiousness. Now we've become fairly used to it, so there's a little bit of stress that we're actually somewhat addicted to because of the dopamine. And coming into the peace sometimes may be a little unsettling. So stay in the peace, stay in the slower breaths, and just be very conscious of it. I'm running on a little long here. I sure do appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for listening. I hope this is helpful. Please leave me some feedback, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.